today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Black Krrsantan for the vintage collection. And what you're seeing here is basically the Super Deluxe action figure of him. We had two different versions. This is the San Diego Comic-Con one. I figure between the two, there are some differences between the two. But I'd rather get the one that has a little bit more accessories, even though it's a little bit more expensive. Or I should say a lot more expensive, because this is retailing for $40, which is completely outrageous for a 3 3/4 inch action figure. Would any of us, if we had that crystal ball 20 years ago, imagine that someday we're going to be paying at least $40, maybe even more, for a 3 3/4 inch action figure? And if you're in places like Canada or Europe or Australia, I think it goes way up into $50 or $60 even, or 50 or 60 euros, depending where you're at, or pounds even. So it's pretty pricey all around. And quite frankly, the value is just not there to justify the markup. He has a normal deluxe action figure, and the only real difference between that one and this one is this one has a few extra accessories, not a lot more. In fact, it's probably only like 3 or 4 extra accessories altogether. And to justify, what is it, maybe a $15 increase just for a few extra accessories, I don't think that's value at all. I have not heard anybody say that $40 is justified for this pack at all. I'm sure there's somebody out there that'll say, "Ooh, you just don't understand, man," but you know how it is. So yeah, $40 is a lot for this, but I figure this is the only one I'm going to be getting, and I don't have a lot of Wookiees for my collection anyway, so I'm okay spending $40 for it this one time. I don't plan on getting the normal deluxe action figure of him, which there's nothing deluxe about these action figures at all. It's just Hasbro charging extra tax basically because you can't reuse the tooling. And Krrsantan does have a very specific shape to him where you can't really reuse him for any other Wookiees. And he's certainly a lot different shape than Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a lot more slimmer. And at the time of this video, this is actually the only 3 3/4 inch Wookiee I have in my collection right now. I used to own the Revenge of the Sith Chewbacca, and I think that's pretty much the only Wookiee that I ended up having over the years. I've just never really collected them. And in recent years, I've kind of wanted to start revamping my Wookiee collection, and I figure Krrsantan here is a great start. I would like to get some of the Revenge of the Sith Wookiees. I would like to also get Murl from the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line. So this is an excellent start, I think. So what more can I say about this? We'll just look at the package of him here first. So like I said, he is a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, which, as far as I can tell, I don't think it's sold very well. This is still readily available through all the retailers online, and I don't even think at the actual convention it sold too well, as far as I can tell. And he's probably going to be around for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now you can still find this readily available, and maybe even for discount. The rescue set from The Mandalorian, that's still readily available, and they had a Black Friday sale for it on Amazon a couple days ago, and they were asking like $50 for it. So I imagine this will probably be in that same category at some point. So nice images though of Black Krrsantan. For whatever reason, Hasbro has dropped the black part in his name. So he has his fruit there. Looks like a guava or something like that. And some extra scenes. Same thing in the back, advertising all the accessories. The only real difference between this one and the regular deluxe action figure is this one has the swords, and it has this weapon here. And I think that's pretty much it. The regular deluxe has these weapons, I think. It has the mug with the fruit, and it has all the hands. And showing them off again. And this is just a sleeve over the actual box. Interesting design that they have here. It kind of has his shoulder armor there. So you open this guy up, and then this is where all the accessories were displayed. Very similar to the Star Killer set. I had a much easier time getting him out of the package, or this figure out of the package, over Star Killer. That one was all taped up and done a certain way. This one you can almost just pop them out or pop the twist ties here a certain way. So not too bad. I don't know if I'm going to keep this package or not. I don't really want to collect a whole bunch of packages and hoard it somewhere to be stored for who knows how long. But we'll see. I'll keep that one in mind for now. So for the figure itself. So despite the price point, he is a very nicely tooled action figure. Another difference between this and the normal deluxe figure is the normal one has more of a neutral expression, while this one has a roar. Personally, I think Wookiees look a lot better when they have a roaring expression. The neutral one just doesn't really look right to me, so that was another big reason why I went ahead and got this one over the other one. Because I just think this looks a little bit better. So for the head sculpt, looks pretty good. It looks exactly like the character. He has his braids around his Wookiee beard there, and then the back. His eyes, you can barely even see his eyes. It's almost like just black eyes, and that's it. It's good enough to get the point across. If you look at it from a distance, it looks better, I think. He has his teeth sculpted in. Looks pretty good. And he has his armor here, which is a separate piece. I don't know if you could really take it off, though. I suppose if you pop his head off and then twist his arms around a certain way, you might be able to get it. I do have the Black Series one reviewed on the channel. Just this figure here. Which turned out pretty nice. One thing about the 3 3/4 inch figures, though, is there's not a spot to where you can put his rifle in the back, unfortunately, which would have been nice, and for the price we're paying, there's no reason why that should not have been included. Rest of him's pretty typical for a Wookiee. He has his braid or something around his belt. That golden color belt. Nice sculpting work in his hands. He has those brass knuckles, and that's the same for all of his hands here. And for the most part, he stands pretty good on his own. I haven't had too many problems, as long as you finesse with him a little bit. For articulation, technically he has a ball joint at the head, but you can't really get a lot of motion out of it because of his Wookiee braided beard here and just the overall shape of his head. But it's not that big of a deal. I don't really have a problem with it. He does have hinge at the shoulders and hinged elbows, which have pretty good range of motion. Get about 90 degrees. It does have hinge wrist, I think, or is it swivel wrist? It depends what these are. Yeah, those are all hinges. Now I imagine this is about the same, but he has a little bit of that shape over his, or that Wookiee fur over his hands there, so that kind of restricts it a little bit. It does technically have a joint at the waist, of course, hinged hips, swivel thigh, and hinged knees, and rocker ankles. Now for what makes this action figure a deluxe, basically. And I think this would be better if I showed it off like this. Well, we'll look at his swords here first. Which, personally, I think this is some of my favorite accessories he comes with. And another reason I wanted to get this deluxe is because of these. Kind of reminds me of a scimitar. Interesting shape of the blade. And they do fit around his hands nicely. He has that guard there that goes over his fingers. Looks pretty good. Then we have extra set of hands. We have 3 sets of hands altogether. So we have 2 fists, the brass knuckles, or yeah, this one's the fist. So I guess you can have him punch someone out. Then he has a little bit of a wider grip for hands, which I assume is more suited for the rifles. The ones he has on his figure right now, I think, are more suited for the swords. Then he has these extra lightning effects which go around the brass knuckles. Unfortunately, well, I'll show you what I mean. So you take this hand, and it's supposed to overlap over his fingers there, and then you can get it over the brass knuckles. So like that. Unfortunately for the fisted ones, you're not going to be able to do that though, because or at least not too well, that is. Because it's supposed to go around his fingers there, so that's pretty much about the best you can do. It's not going to look right though. Maybe if you finesse with it a little bit, you could be able to get it. But unfortunately, it just doesn't have that extra support there that it's really meant to. So kind of a engineering flaw on Hasbro's part. I guess they didn't see the need to really work that in. Then you have his mug here, which is a pretty nice accessory. Not something you get with most Star Wars action figures. Then he has his fruit here. Like I said, kind of looks like a guava or something like that. And you can put it in the mug there, which fits good. Then you have his rifle, which is the same type of rifle that came with his Black Series counterpart. It's pretty good. Nice sculpting work overall. Then one accessory that's unique to this Comic-Con exclusive is this rifle here, which does have this lightning effect around here. Kind of an interesting looking rifle. Almost looks like a stun gun or something like that. Then, what would a Wookiee be without his traditional bowcaster, which Hasbro did give this part separately, and took me a little bit to figure out exactly how you put it on. I thought, don't tell me they think you have to wedge it in between here or something, or somehow put it on top, because I always thought these were on top. But it turns out it's supposed to fit in under here. Which can be kind of hard to fit. Yeah, something like that. You just gotta hope it stays in the place. It's not very stable, so if you mess with it too much, it might fall out. But you could drape his bowcaster around him if you wanted to. Something like that. Doesn't really form fit around him too well though. Let's see here. His hands are soft enough to where you can fit the rifle around his hand all right. And he looks pretty good like that too. Personally, between the two versions of the character here, I can't. It's really hard to say which one's better than the other. I don't think one is really better than the other. Both have. They're both. They both have their likes and dislikes about them. Of course, this one you can attach his rifle to his back, and this one just looks nice. So, as far as recommending one over the other, I don't think I can really do that, and it just comes down to your personal preference. But they're both very nice action figures. I like them both. Yeah, sometimes it can be hard to keep them in place. Mess with his feet a little bit to get him to stay. Yeah. I think it's kind of similar to Paz Vizsla, where it's better to have him with a wider stance. Kind of have his feet at an angle too. That's pretty much all that's included with this set. Would I recommend the 3 3/4 inch action figure? It just depends what you want. There are enough differences between the two to warrant them to be different enough, I suppose. Is this worth $40? No way. If you really want all the accessories though, and maybe you prefer to have your Wookiees with a roaring expression, this is definitely a good action figure to get. If you do decide to get this and have it for your collection, I don't think anyone would regret it. I certainly don't regret having him in my collection or spending the price for him. He is a very nice action figure regardless of the price. So it just comes down to your personal preference. Well, he's a good action figure overall, and I'm sure the other one is good in its own way too. It just comes down to whichever one you want. Hopefully, going forward, we do get a lot more Wookiees in the vintage collection. So, believe it or not, I do not have a Chewbacca currently in my collection for both Black Series or 3 3/4 inch. And reason being is, like I said, I did own the Revenge of the Sith figure at one time, but I've lost it throughout the years and unfortunately just don't have it anymore. But personally, I think that's probably the best Chewbacca we've ever gotten. I don't think any of the TVC Chewbaccas or any of the other ones throughout the years, Legacy Collection, you name it, I just don't think they've done him justice yet. And none of the Wookiees for him seem to be very good. Hopefully, pretty soon here, we do get a definitive one. Krrsantan looks really good. I think this is the first Wookiee I've ever owned where I thought, you know, that looks really good. I actually want to collect Wookiees now. But Chewbacca is just not there yet, and hopefully here soon. And now that we've gotten this action figure of Black Krrsantan, hopefully that's renew some efforts to get a definitive Chewbacca out there. Because I certainly would like to get one. Maybe I'll just go ahead and reacquire the Revenge of the Sith one at some point. We'll see. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always greatly appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you have not done so already. As always, thanks for watching.